So today is Trinity Sunday, a holy day that reflects on the very complex theology that understands our God to be simultaneously both three and also one. For the most part, I think that the Trinity goes a bit beyond the attention span for a live-streamed worship service. But I do just want to say that the Trinity is a beautiful example of three persons working together towards one goal: love. So instead, today I wanted to start a new worship series for the summer called Unraveled. We'll be looking at stories from throughout the Bible of when people's plans fell apart and they turned to God. God has the power to pick up the chaotic, unraveled messes that are our souls and help weave them into something even more beautiful than they were before. So our series starts this morning with a story from the book of Genesis, chapter 18, verses 1 through 15, and chapter 21, verses 1 through 7. Hear now the word of the Lord. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, and as he sat at the entrance of the tent in the heat of the day, Abraham looked up and saw three men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My lords, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly 3 measures of choice flour, knead it, and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant, who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, "Where is your wife, Sarah?" And he said, "There, in the tent." Then one said, "I will surely return to you in one season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I have grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure?" But the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old?' Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At the set time I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. He said, "Oh yes, you did laugh." The Lord dealt with Sarah, as had been said, and the Lord did for Sarah, as had been promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to his son, whom Sarah bore him. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Now Sarah said, "God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me." And she said, "Who would ever have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. This is the word of the Lord. So each of us has a way of framing the narratives of our lives, like a one-sentence summary of what has driven us so far. Maybe your entire life has been working towards a single goal, like being a doctor or a professor or a marine biologist. Maybe your narrative is less specific. Maybe you are the mom friend who takes care of everybody. Maybe you are the funny one who makes everyone laugh. Maybe you are an artist who makes things beautiful. Maybe your narrative is that you always get what you want, or you can fix anything, or that you are always traveling. But sometimes we frame our narratives through a more tragic lens. Maybe your narrative is that you're never quite good enough. Maybe your narrative is that you are a burden, and you constantly feel ashamed that you might be asking too much from the world. Maybe your narrative is that you will never get your brain chemicals to line up and let you be happy, or never get your body to let you live without pain. For Sarah, the narrative was that she was an old woman who had never borne a child. Obviously, today we understand that fertility issues are not moral failures, but science didn't actually figure out all the technical details of human fertilization until the 19th century, thousands of years after the book of Genesis was written. So Sarah didn't have the benefit of scientific knowledge or medical options, and her heart felt empty. And that empty loneliness was the narrative that framed her life. What she knew to be true, and what is still true today, is that a woman cannot conceive naturally after menopause. Or as our Bible translates it, after it had ceased to be with her in the way of women. It's menopause. So when one of the three strangers who comes to visit her husband says that she will fall pregnant and bear a child, of course she laughs. If you told me in all seriousness that I would grow a pair of functional wings, I would probably also laugh at you, because me growing wings and learning to fly is about as likely to happen as a 90-year-old postmenopausal woman giving birth to a child. But the thing is that God can unravel our narratives and transform them. Sometimes it can be very unsettling and uncomfortable to have your narrative taken away. If for decades the framework of your story has been being a parent, it would be a very big change indeed to suddenly have an empty nest. If the framework of your story has always been being a student, you might struggle to find a new identity when you finally finish school. Sometimes our narrative is that we are healthy, and that is hard to lose. If that is ever a narrative that you lose, I hope that you are blessed with good health insurance and with friends and family who can help take care of you. Sometimes our narrative is that we live in a safe and a good society. If that is ever a narrative that you lose, I hope that you find the courage to speak up for what is right, even when it's terrifying or heartbreaking or dangerous or a choice that makes some people turn their backs on you. Sometimes our narrative is that even if we aren't perfect, at least we're better than those people. If that is ever a narrative that you lose, and I hope that it is, I hope that you are blessed with the grace to accept hard truths with dignity, rather than fighting back because you refuse to be wrong. I hope that you are blessed with willingness to have dialogues instead of arguments. I hope that you are blessed with the courtesy to resist